Hey there, Anime Guy here. Previously in the town of the slime, we left Gabiru, the lizard man, in the marshlands battling with the orcs. Let's see what our favorite slime, Rimuru, thinks about that. Rimuru is headed to the marshlands to meet the chieftain of the lizard man and help their fight with the orcs. Accompanying him are Benimaru, Shion, and Hakuro, along with the all-reliable scout, Sue. And of course, Rimuru could not have left Ranga and the goblin riders behind. Rigurd is back at the village to ensure everyone immediately flees in the absolute worst case that the battle is lost. Just then, Rimuru is contacted by Sui, informing him about a scuffle happening between a high-ranking orc and the guard of the lizard chieftain. Rimuru lets him know that he is on his way with the others and that Sui is to help the guard against the orcs until then. When the group gets there, they witness the utter carnage Sui has caused to end the dispute completely. The only thing left for Rimuru to do is to give some healing potion to the lizard guard who had been fatally injured. She introduces herself as the chieftain's daughter and informs Rimuru that her brother, Gabiru, has imprisoned their father and intends to battle with the orcs. Because she understands that Gabiru is chewing off a bigger bite than he can handle, she appeals to Rimuru for help with liberating her father and fighting the orcs. As she is representative of the chieftain, Rimuru accepts this plea for an alliance and asks Sui to use shadow movement to get to the chieftain and free him. In the marshlands, overconfident Gabiru is watching over the battle of his army with the orcs. In the meantime, he realizes that the orcs are eating their dead to gain strength and power, causing them to be even more dangerous for the dwindling population of the lizardmen army. One of his troops informs Gabiru that the orcs have eaten one of the lizardmen too, and gained the skills and speed of their kind as well now. Time to get that cockiness off your face, Gabiru. Surrounded by all sides, without an escape, Gabiru decides to take on the orc general in a one-on-one fight. While his intention seems noble, he is truly freaking out internally just thinking about the power of the Orc Lord if even a mere general has such a strong aura. Quite as expected, Gabiru's vortex crash is unworthy of the general's Chaos Eater and hence causes no harm to the general. Just when the general was about to deliver that final blow to Gabiru, Gobta appears and deflects the attack. Close behind him, Ranga makes his presence known to Gabiru as well. Enraged at being called worthless monsters by the general, Ranga unleashes his true power in the form of Deathstorm, causing him to evolve into the Temple Star Wolf. Combined with the attack from the ogres, the orc army is destroyed, marking the successful end of battle. Rimuru realizes the worth of the Kijin and hopes to himself that they choose to stay friendly in the future. Spotting the Orc Lord, Rimuru proclaims to end him and heads into battle with his game face on. I mean his game mask on. Well, you know what I mean. Meanwhile, Sui is successful in freeing the lizard chieftain, and he even slays an orc who made its way there. In Hot People, we absolutely trust. Back at the battleground, Gilmud the Magian appears and lets off a rant about Rimuru and the Kijin, causing his plan of creating a puppet demon lord to go to nothing. Enraged, he insists that Gabiru and his troops should just agree to be peacefully eaten by the Orc Lord to increase his strength so he can evolve into the Orc Disaster to rule over the forest of Jura. Irritated by the Magian, the Orc Lord severs his head. You heard that right, and proceeds to eat his remains. You definitely heard that right. Talk about gory. Ugh. With this meal, the Orc Lord evolves into the Orc Disaster, introducing himself as Geld. The name Gilmud had granted him. Recognizing the real disaster here, Rimuru and team get to work. Shion and Hakuro manage to hack off his head, but to no avail, because thanks to the consumed Gilmud, the Orc Disaster is capable of simply reattaching his head. Next in the attack, Sui weaves a cocoon of arcane thread fetters around the orc disaster, to which Benimaru adds his hell flare, and Ranga contributes with black lightning. Enduring it all, the orc disaster still survives. To regain his strength, he quickly devours a subordinate who willingly sacrificed himself. Switching to auto-battle mode, Rimuru gives up control of himself to the Great Sage. After a series of attacks, the Sage executes a flare circle. For just a while, the Sage and Rimuru taste success, but instantly realize that the orc disaster can endure fire as well. Taking back control from the Sage, Rimuru gets back to his self, dissolving into slime. Rimuru begins engulfing the orc disaster, making this a battle between the orcs starved and Rimuru's own predator skills. In the orc disaster's mind are his memories of his dry land gone to waste, with children crying and starving. Resorting to feeding his own flesh to hungry kids of his land, the Orc King decides to explore the forest of Jura for food. While on his way there, he meets Gelmud, who names him Geld, and even offers a tempting solution to his problems. He knew the selfish nature of Gelmud's solution of becoming the Orc disaster, but decided to agree out of desperation. Rimuru learns from Geld's consciousness that he is unwilling to die because that would mean his brethren would have to bear his sins for the rest of their lives. Rimuru assures him that he will take in all his sins and even the sins of his brethren, so he has nothing to worry about. With this, he shows Geld his land as lush as the forest, which leads to Geld giving up his consciousness with relief. With the end of this battle, the Kajin is free to leave Rimuru's side. But surprisingly, Benimaru expresses the wish of the Kajin to continue serving Rimuru. Rimuru delightfully accepts this arrangement. I mean, who wouldn't if this is what they get, right? A day after the success of the battle with the orcs, the representative of all the races in the forest gather for a meeting. Rimuru begins by stating that he won't be sentencing any of the remaining orcs for their actions in the battle. While the orcs are shocked about the news, they are also grateful to know that Rimuru has absorbed all their sins. To ensure that everyone lives harmoniously together, Rimuru suggests that they share resources to ensure fairness in dealings. It is decided that the lizardmen will share their freshwater source and fish, the goblins will share residences, and the town will provide processed goods, all in return for labor from the orcs. Trainee also pledges that her faction will gladly share the bounty of the forest for such a dream alliance. She goes ahead and proclaims Rimuru as the Chancellor of the Great Forest of Jura, under whom the Jura Forest Alliance would be founded. With everyone in agreement with Trainee, not much option is left for Rimuru other than to accept being the Chancellor. After the meeting, the son of the former Orc Disaster Geld comes up to the Kajin and pleads to Benimaru to have his head for all the misdeeds at the ogre's village. Benimaru informs him of his new position as the samurai general within Rimuru's regime. Owing to this, he says, he cannot end the life of a capable warrior for his personal vengeance. Instead, he asks the orc to serve Rimuru as his chancellor for no harm to befall him and his kind, to which the orc responds by pledging his life to Rimuru. Rimuru then has the daunting task of naming all the orcs. He begins with Geld's son and grants him the same powerful name and makes him the leader of the orcs. Named Geld, he evolves into the Orc King. Rimuru spends the next 10 days naming the rest of the 150,000 orcs. He also names the Lizardman chieftain Abiru, who in turn charges his son, Gabiru, with treason and exiles him from the village. Meanwhile, though the Demon Lord Clayman is sad about their failure to create a puppet Demon Lord, he is glad about having learnt about the unity among the various forces of the forest because of Rimuru. 3 months later, the orcs have evolved to high orcs and are making progress in learning new skills and becoming capable workmen as well. The village now has houses, clothing, tools, roads, and even an aqueduct. Just when Rimuru was appreciating all the development in their peaceful settlement, Sui informs him of incoming trouble. Oh, you weren't thinking this was happily ever after, were you? It so happens that multiple Pegasus-mounted knights were headed their way since Gazel Dwargo, the hero king of dwarves, wishes to meet the slime that united everyone. Worried about his nation being overrun with monsters, the king challenges Rimuru to single combat. Rimuru can only win if he manages to defend every attack made by Gazel Dwargo. Rimuru, what can I say? Just go for it, I guess. Trainee volunteers to be the witness and announces the start of the match. After Rimuru deflects a couple of Gazel Dwargo's attacks, he realizes the strength Gazel Dwargo possesses. Fortunately, Rimuru recognizes the stance Gazel Dwargo assumes for his next attack to be for the haze, and correctly predicts that he has to defend above him. Trainee declares Rimuru to be the winner, and this entire situation convinces Gazel Dwargo that Rimuru isn't an evil monster, as he was inclined to believe. Over dinner, Gazel Dwargo proposes an alliance between the two nations for mutual benefit. While Rimuru accepts, he faces the issue of having to name their nation. While he decides on Jura Tempest Federation for the name of the nation, everyone else suggests that the town they've built with hard work and efforts be named the capital of this new nation and be called Rimuru, after the great leader. Like and subscribe for more adventures into Slime Town, and I'll see you soon.